have gone with it, said it's balanced on a knife edge. Bad mistake, because that will be dated tomorrow when people get that paper.
Written especially for us, maybe?
Possibly.
Kevin Maguire will have more from you later on. But first, the by-election. There may be dozens of Labour MPs up in Eddisbury at the moment, having spent the week knocking out the vote. But there were a few left in the Commons today to lend their support from afar. They were quick to condemn the rowdy protest that met the Prime Minister when he turned up in Cheshire yesterday.
Could my right honourable friend find time for a discussion debate on the work of the Electoral Commission on revitalising democracy? I've just returned from the Eddisbury by-election yesterday, Madam Speaker, where clearly voters are motivated by the chance to meet candidates and indeed meet the Prime Minister, and are quite frankly turned off by the yobbish behaviour of some of the party opposite. We need new and radical proposals to revitalise interest, particularly among young people, in the democratic process.
Well, I share my honourable friend's view that it is important. I know there are those who continue to hold the view that we ought to make it difficult for people to vote. I actually think we ought to make it easier for people to register their vote, and he'll be aware that my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, did present a full list of proposals last week. I'm also aware that, of course, that the voters in Eddisbury have an opportunity to give their views today, and I'm sure all of us on this side, although perhaps not on the other side, hope that when they do so, they will bear in mind some of the improvements that they're seeing, such as the lowest mortgage rates for 30 years, low inflation, a successfully stable economy, no more boom and bust, and the many achievements this government has to its credit.
Margaret Beckett speaking earlier in the Commons. Margaret Beckett, of course, in charge of the last European election campaign. Well, we go over to Eddisbury now, and our reporter Laura Trevelyan is there. Laura, you might have heard Margaret Beckett talking about revitalising democracy. Have they managed to revitalise democracy at this by-election?
Well, it seems they have to a certain extent, because we've just got the turnout figure and it's 51.47%. Now that's an awful lot higher than it was at the European elections in this constituency, where it was just about 25%. So clearly the very active campaign that we've seen here, with a steady stream of cabinet ministers and their opposite numbers beating a path up here to rural Cheshire, has done something to interest the voters here. And it has been a very lively campaign, and you've noticed whether you're out in a rural village in Cheshire or perhaps here in Winsford, which is the main town in the constituency, the people actually have noticed there's an election going on, and they quite like the fact that these people who they know about, like Mo Mowlam and William Hague, they've actually seen them in the flesh, and it does seem to have made a difference because there's quite a high turnout here.
Now, we've been told it's been more or less a single issue by-election to a certain extent, or certainly dominated by fox hunting. Is that the case?
Well, it has been dominated by fox hunting, really, because that's a smokescreen for both sides. I mean, Labour have used that to try and motivate their voters in areas like Winsford, because it is a radical policy to people who are Labour voters. They like the fact the government is going to ban fox hunting. And for the Conservatives, it's been a way for them to motivate their voters in the rural areas by saying, look, here's something the government is trying to take away from you. But there are other issues, undoubtedly, in this area. It is very rural, so issues like the closure of village shops and post offices, that's been very much on the agenda. And in the urban areas, it's been the quality of schools and hospitals and also crime that's been a big concern. So it hasn't been a single issue, but it has been dominated by that issue, definitely.
And Laura, very briefly, what time are we expecting a result?
Between 2 and 2:30, but we're certainly hoping there won't be a recount, because that would mean we'll all be up till at least 4:30 in the morning.
Laura, we'll be thinking of you, our political correspondent, Laura Trevelyan. Angela Smith, you were at the by-election yesterday, one of a number of Labour MPs. About 100 of you have been up there, some suggesting maybe mischievously you're all trying to attract attention ahead of the reshuffle. But what do you make of this by-election in that sense? And why is it so important for you? You don't exactly need another MP in the Commons.
I think why it was so important is we detected something happening in the constituency. And clearly it's this kind of seat, if the Tories were making any revival and comeback, they should be talking about a massive majority. This was a seat we came third in 83 and 87. And here we are, people talking about a knife-edge result. And I find that quite incredible. We'll see what happens tonight.
Well, I was expecting you to say that. But we want to be part of the excitement. I was expecting you to say that.
And we want to be part of the excitement of that campaign.
To have that sort of thrill of the chase or whatever. But if you do win this seat, why? What difference does it make in Parliament?
It makes a big difference. What we're saying is there's no part of the country, it's a no-go area for the Labour Party. And when you find these kind of seats really challenging the Tories, in seats that have been called Tory heartlands, true blue Tory seats, and there we are talking about Labour challenging, possibly even winning. Now, I find that incredible. The reason we went up was to be part of the excitement. It was great fun. And you're out on the doorstep and people switching round to vote Labour, having never voted Labour before, even not voting Labour in the last general election. So certainly not voting Labour in the Euro elections, and there they were. So I think it is important. We're showing there's no no-go areas, and our support is spread across the country, and more importantly, across rural and urban England, the whole country.
Now, Peter Luff, we're not going to try and really predict the result at this late hour. Very foolish indeed. But it has been dominated, as Laura Trevelyan was saying, to a large extent by fox hunting. Is that really the kind of issue that your party wants to inspire people with? Isn't it a sort of reflection to a certain extent to the sorry state of politics here at Westminster, that it's that kind of issue that dominates?
Well, it wasn't our decision to make fox hunting an issue in Eddisbury. We'd rather debate the real issues about rural people and urban people too there. But it was the Labour Party who made it the issue.
But you have highlighted it as an issue.
Well, you have no choice when the Prime Minister's made it an issue like he did. I mean, and you've seen the Labour election address there. The front page of it is a picture of a man in a red coat with their candidate outside a hospital. The Labour Party have made it the issue. Personally, my experience at the doorsteps, admittedly in the rural parts of Eddisbury last week, was I welcomed that. It's helped us, but I'd rather have campaigned on issues like the rural motorists, on the village shops, the future of dairy farming.
As we did.
I'd rather, but fox hunting was their choice, not ours.
Over time, back here at Westminster, in the House of Commons itself, it could be a tricky issue for you, couldn't it? Because tonight we've heard that Anne Widdecombe, your front bench spokesman on Home Affairs, has tabled a petition calling on fox hunting to be banned. Now, you can picture the scene, can't you, where Jack Straw brings in the legislation on behalf of the Labour government, William Hague wants to attack it as he has done consistently, and sat next to him is the awesome figure of Anne Widdecombe, who is backing the Labour side.
I've obviously missed something here. It's a free vote issue. We believe it.
Is it really a free vote when your party has made such a thing of aligning itself with the Countryside Alliance, of actually speaking out for the countryside? You acknowledge yourself it was a dominant issue in this by-election?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a free vote issue. And I think it's good for the party. There are people in it who take a slightly different view. The majority of us believe in the liberty of the individual, the right to choose. There are others who think other issues are more important. About 8, I think, of the parliamentary party take Anne's view. I think it shows we're a broad church. The bulk of us are behind the countryside and the right to choose. Anne's entitled to her views, and I welcome it. And she's a friend of mine. I think she's wrong on the issue, but I'm glad she's expressing herself.
Jackie Ballard, now you aspire to lead your party at this point. Where would you draw the line between allowing someone the freedom to